Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And today, I just talking, maybe there'll be a point to this, and there is. And the clarity that comes in uh, through, where I'm at on my journey and my meditations is basically everything that you're suffering from is actually a piece and a part of the collective suffering of humanity, the suffering of the world. So, the world as humanity has an injury that's gone on for decades and lifetimes. And this may offer you understanding of why you are who you are, why you're at this point in your life, and why, you know, life can seem unfair. Uh, why is life a struggle? Why is there hardship? Why aren't humans totally evolved and advanced? Why are there so many social problems? So much confusion. And so this last week, I've really been thinking about it, pondering, meditating, and I had a really great meditation session, clearing out my third eye because it gets clogged dealing with all the garbage of unconscious people. And so when it was all said and done, wrapping it up, the conclusion of all the insight I gathered, it's like, dude, you are like a cell within this body, and this body has a slash in it. Someone has cut it with a sword, and it's still bleeding, and it's infected. And so, looking at the world with new eyes, why do we see such toxic behavior or such painful experiences other people are going through? And I'm like, well, maybe they're at the edge of this injury where it's got infected, or where the injury still hasn't been able to heal. It's bleeding out. It's being exposed to the elements. So it's burning and cracking and screaming and crying. And this image gives me so much more insight as I walk through the world and observe it. I see so much going on. Being a pedestrian and using city transportation, I see the forgotten. I see the abused. I see the neglected. I see people who are beyond help, who, they're in their last moments and they're struggling on the streets. And I'm like, why am I seeing all this? And why am I also right on the edge of this? You know, there is like a there's like a thin line between I could be where you're at any moment, or or I could go to the other side, or where am I? And so I feel like my journey through the last probably 2 or 3 years has been really watching the suffering as I met my twin flame slash soulmate, if you believe in that kind of stuff. Soon as I met my other special person, of course, we had a few moments of this is awesome, and then it all fell apart and went into separation. And during this whole time, I wasn't blind. My third eye is operating. Is it operating at full capacity all the time? No. But is it there? And the answer is yes. So let's kind of move into third eye conversation. There's a lot of silly techniques, put turmeric oil on your third eye, you know, for its penetrating healing factors, or rub it a certain way, like clockwise or certain mantra. And really, really, everyone has the gift to be connected to source and to see. So when you think of the power of the third eye, it's awareness. If you're not even aware of yourself, you're not aware of your world, why you're here, your third eye is probably not functioning at full capacity. If you're looking for angels and visions and spirit masters and guides and power animals and signs and symbols, your third eye is below the belt. It's not operating at full capacity. And you're like, I'm seeing and hearing all these visions. And I'm like, yeah, you are. But it's only functioning below the belt. you know? You're still looking at the mirror, the inner mirror of illusion. We have the outer mirror, the world is an illusion, but we also have the inner mirror. The inner world is illusion. We have inner and outer constructs. So we could go deeper into that, but we don't need to. But your third eye, you can say, is anytime you practice being in witness mode, detaching from the situation. Anytime you gain that clarity of that outside perspective, you're developing your third eye abilities. Because it's creating that distance, which is giving you that perspective. You get to witness it without being reactive, without being in judgment, without being triggered into action, motivated through your woundedness, or aka your cause, your justification, your rightness. You're not polarized. So when you move into neutrality, when you are detached, your third eye also naturally starts to develop. And so you think about clear sight, being clear. When you put black and white together, it actually makes clear. We perceive it as the color gray. Anyways, so it doesn't have to be a mystical thing. It can be a very practical thing. It can be you're gaining insight. Anytime you practice self-reflection, turning inward, how do I feel about this? You're developing your inner awareness. So self-reflection, inner awareness automatically opens your third eye. And this is something that the gurus don't really tell you, that anytime you are in a state of compassion, anytime you are in love, the heart chakra is the center of the chakra system. And so, like a pyramid turned upside down, you invert that triangle down to your heart, well, then it becomes, it becomes like that. And everything above it opens up and flowers. That's why it's 1,000-petaled lotus. So if you're like working with spinning wheels and symbols and mudras and all that stuff, you can quickly bypass that by thinking, just know that the root of your crown chakra finds the fertile, sweet soil full of nutrients in your heart. So anytime you start really developing that empathy, you're automatically opening up your third eye. And really, so you want to really create some good fertilizer to have a beautiful crown chakra. You're going to open up. So anytime you become vulnerable and you express your truth, your deepest truths, how you truly authentically feel, anytime you really hold yourself accountable, take responsibility, these are keys that are unlocking the lotus flower. And so we have a tendency, so where, that all sounds lovely, Onyx, and your lovely new age voice. And let me tell you, holiday time, usually you're going to go see the family, panic, stress, freak out. All these childhood issues come up. All the woundedness, all the abandonment, all the blame, all the judgment, all the walls were right up in my face. And I was like having a crisis. I was having nightmares. Oh my gosh, I have to see my family. Oh my gosh. Everything that was unresolved shows up on a big old plate for you to eat and try to digest. And you're like, that's 40 years of being avoidant, resisting, running away from my problems, feeling like a failure. And I'm like, okay, all these negative feelings. I was like, and this all, so the more light you invoke, so the more channeling, the more healing energy you do, the more self-improvement, the more steps you take towards a better life, all of a sudden there seems to be this resistance. And it's all the unprocessed material. And guess what? It's not just your little processed material, your little bubble, your little, all of a sudden you see a bigger pattern and you find out it's the collective. So your issues are a million other people's issues. There's a million people having financial issues due to their self-esteem, due to living in lack and thinking less than themselves. I'm going to raise my hand, and so hopefully that helps relieve this "it's only me" syndrome. I'm the only one failing in life syndrome, ego syndrome. And we can now see there's a collective theme going on. Why is it that people suffer from low self-esteem? Feeling not enough. Why do we all have a void? Why does modern society have a void and we try to fill it with things? Why? So when we look at this collective injury, I'm looking at people putting chemicals in their body. I'm like, oh, they're trying to medicine this injury. I look at people cutting themselves. Oh, they're trying to open up the where it's infected. And so we are symbolically acting out this collective wound. It's not evil, it's painful. It's not evil, it's ignorance. We're not willing to spend time examining, looking at, tending it, taking care of it, putting on the right medicine, And so collectively, we have a purpose. So for everyone who thinks they're lost, everyone turning to angels and guides and spirits and ancestors and all that, y'all come crash landing back into reality where ground zero is, where the injury is. It's in this dimension, in this plane. So yes, we can go to the other dimensions, hang out with angels, kiss, make love, think about astral babies and relationships in the astral plane, and hang out with ETs and go across the stars and read books and visit cities on other planets like I have done, and everyone else can too. But where is the work? Where is the universe asking you to be the caregiver? Where is it asking you to be the hero? Where is it asking you to create a healing in the collective, in your own personal life, and in the collective, in the value of other people's lives? It's right here in this dimension, assuming we're all sharing the same dimension. Because at the beginning of this week, I wondered, because so I had this really great meditation. I was just like, let's just relax. Let's put a few crystals on our third eye and let's explore. I have a really good friend. She identifies herself under the archetype of the witch. And she's like, oh yeah, I put this crystal on my forehead and it really clears my third eye. And I went, it's been forever since I ever put crystals on myself. I was like, let's give it a go. So I started experimenting and noticing some cool things happening. I'm like, whoa, this little selenite crystal on my third eye really cleared out some dirt. And I saw it clear out, and I was kind of a little bit shocked and then a little bit sad. I'm like, why is there like a river of brown washing out of my third eye like that? I'm like, has it been so long? Have I neglected my self care? You know, where have I been in dirty waters, in the psychic plane? What am I looking at? What am I exposing my senses to have, you know? And I was just like, oh, just city life. And I'm like, okay. You know, and then the next day I was doing some meditation, and I felt all this like energy and power from like all my lower chakras pointing up to my third eye, and it basically looked like a pine cone, and it started vibrating, and it was really awesome. And then, you know, that left. And then the next day I was like, my roommate left and everyone left for the holidays, so I was like, finally peace and quiet, and no one's disturbing the atmosphere. And I can go into some really deep states if I'm not like on my Zen cushion and my back straight, and me doing everything rigid and hard. Like, you know, it takes effort to hold your spine up, to hold your body up. If I can just relax against the couch and slouch a little bit, I can go super deep. And so, as a reward, every once in a while, I'll go and cross my legs and sit on the couch and slouch my back and go deep. So I was like, let's just go deep. Let's just forget reality. Like, let's just kind of visualize everything dissolving: the house, the room, the body, everything. And it all dissolved. And then, you know, pop. And I was like out in the universe, far out in the universe. And it was full of all this like rainbow color out in space. And I was like, before I start questioning the reality of space, I was like just out there in that space. And it was so beautiful. Then I like popped back into my body. And then being all the stuff came up. Then that huge plate of 40 years of childhood issues, my personal narrative, what I chose to own, why I saw things that way, my victim story came up. And it kind of threw me for a loop. And I'm like, can I just spiritually bypass this? Can I just breathe and, you know, meditate my way out of this? And I'm like, no. And the realization happens. You know, you sit in the garbage and you go, this is a part of you. It's not all of you. But in order to be on the planet, you have to take up part of the collective wound. That's what happens when you get a body. That's what happens when people interact with you and don't realize you're divine. When we forget, so there is like a fractal pattern. You know, it kind of changes and all the parts in this pattern change, but from the largest picture to the smallest picture, from the greatest wars to the war within yourself, from the greatest abundance and of nature and the universe and mystery out there, smaller fraction within you, smaller fraction within others. You know, there's this pattern of repeating shapes and symbols and numbers, and that's what it's all about, this fractal holographic a flexible organism that we live in. And so it's like, so when you're in it, you're in it. Boom. So when you go up really high, you expand and have all that white light and energy, all of a sudden you can see more. All of a sudden, dark becomes darker, light becomes lighter. The contrast intensifies. The highs become higher and the lows become lowers. And you crash land back down in the low, and then you think like you're a failure. You're like, I'm doing all this spiritual stuff. How come my life isn't getting better? Oh, it is. You're just seeing clearer. So there's the big warning for third eye opening. For why isn't everyone meditating all day? Why isn't everyone mastering their energy body? Why isn't everyone ascending? Because of that reason right there. When you start letting in the light, you start purging, you start sweating out the pain. And you could do that. You could kind of, I call it spiritual bypassing, but you could do an intensified version with plant medicine. People sweat, they vomit, they shake, they die. They have reactions to the power of nature and the healing properties. But the same thing actually happens when you pray. The same thing happens when you meditate. The same thing happens when you sit in the position that you're in and you try to accept it. It's just not intensified like that. And you can actually, instead of having to feel sick to your stomach, instead of having to have that type of intensity, doesn't mean you're shoveling out more. You're also dealing with the toxins of the plant. So there's a lot of things going on with plant medicine that you don't have to worry about if you meditate, if you pray, if you just do some self-reflection, so it's a part of the journey. So when I was going through this, when I was in states of feeling deep, I would say, grief and shame for my perceived failure of not fitting into the system and not making my parents and family proud and not being this overachiever that's expected of me. I was sweating, feeling this. I don't want to feel these negative feelings. They're uncomfortable. I've kind of made a lifestyle out of avoiding it. I meditated, to kind of try to avoid the pain. I kind of became pacifistic. I didn't know how, and I was just like, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to lash out at others. I don't want to make this situation worse. I don't want to gain more bad karma. Uh, you know, and so I think I just kind of put myself into this little box and stayed there. And then kind of a hermit, kind of a monk, but then also isolation. The ice walls got so thick I wasn't letting anyone in, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't feel love, and I was cutting off my own energy supply. So this situation wasn't working. So you kind of get to that tower moment or that critical moment where you have to do something different. And sometimes you just don't know what to do. So do what you can do. What can I do? I can just kind of practice my meditation. Just kind of learn to still myself and be quiet. I mean, hell, that's a lot. If you can learn to relax in the middle of your own inner turmoil, you're doing great. So anyway, so all these great insights came and all this awesome stuff happened. And the point of it all is everyone can ascend, reconnect with the spiritual power around you, within you, that is available. That spiritual power that created our universe, that spiritual power that is the energy and the life force, that spiritual power that expresses itself as love, as care, as intuition. Love, wisdom, power, the triangle of balance. So a lot of people are like love bombers, like religious. They say the J word and the G word all the time, and they use the L word all the time. And they're all up in your face. They have a lot of energy on that. And there's a whole bunch of action, not a lot of being. Be the love, you know, be divine. And so if you have a strong avoidance tendency towards religious stuff, like myself, that doesn't work for you. No matter how loud they scream, no matter how tight they hug you, no matter how much popcorn and ice cream and smiles, the party isn't getting any better. You know, it's like, it's not helpful and it's out of balance. And so it's totally polarized. And then same with like the haters and the bad people, like these extreme personality dysfunctional cases doesn't really make a good argument for evil either, because it makes no sense. We end up going, you're psychotic. There's something wrong with your brain. So with these, with all, so we're bombarded with what, and all these descriptions and stories and narratives. Where is room for your truth? It's easy to lose yourself, you know? But energy is flowing to you all the time. It's flowing through you. Cosmic rays are bombarding us, moving right through the planet, moving right through your body, whether it's day or night, whatever the orbit says, there is energy flowing to you. Energy, there is wisdom, there is love. It's all available. All you have to do is open up. So reconnecting to this, reconnect to yourself. Like if you can just listen and feel your own heartbeat, if you can learn to just kind of be amazed that your heart is beating on its own, that's a fast way to connect to it. So you can connect to it in very practical ways. Life is happening. You can connect to nature, which is a manifestation of all this in action. So it's kind of like ending separation through connecting. And then so you bypass the lower emotions by connecting to the energy. You bypass this egoic brain, linear thinking of reason, logic, and going from point A to point B through energy. So energy becomes your new way of dialing in, connecting, gaining truth, learning the language, and transmuting all this garbage as energy. And energy, you can start to feel energy by being present. In the present moment, your whole body is an energy communicator. Computers are energy communicators. And the language, the information moves through the energy and is the energy. So be still and allow yourself to receive energy. And you start to reconnect clearly without a name like the G word or the J word, without a story, without any reason. It just is. Move into this transcendent space of well-being. Heal your life, heal the collective injury, fulfill the purpose of humanity. Why are we here? It's to heal this collective injury. It's to create a new pattern, to collectively. So from this perspective, of now you can forgive yourself for thinking it was all your fault. You don't need to take the blame. There's a collective thing going on. And now we take responsibility by being the hero in our own personal life. And kind of like I'm playing collective hero in humanity's life. You're fulfilling your purpose anytime you do self care, anytime you inquire within, every time you pray, every time you meditate. You're not fulfilling your purpose every time you're doing anything less than being aware. Wanting good for yourself and others, wishing the best, cultivating a compassionate heart and an open mind is part of the collective healing. Everything that benefits you benefits the world. So, this is how you move out of the lower plane into the upper plane. This is how all your spiritual gifts come to you. You become self realized. Now you're a divine being having a human experience. You know, it's not so polarized. You wake up, you get to be awake in the dream. When you fall asleep in the dream, your ego is running the show. You're in reactive mode, you're triggered, you have a history. That history is the story programming. You're clinging to people, places, and things, objects, and ambitions. So that's one way you know you're asleep, like you have a goal. But anytime you're in the present moment, you're connecting to energy, you're clearing yourself. You're not identifying with that anymore. Instead, you're identifying with just source energy, always present, everywhere, endlessly giving and endlessly receiving. You move out of polarity, you move into neutrality, you move into the present moment, you go into 0 point, you automatically open up, all your chakras open up, and you like shed. You like peel off an old outfit that no longer fits. You've now changed your style, and you're now part of the cure. Pretty simple. Just be connected.